let's start with the this one you sent me. This make them uncomfortable. We'll play this, and I want to break this down because this is a reaction from, I guess, the liberal side of things and how they're responding to Trump's behavior recently. And this TikToker, I guess, decided to film herself making this call. Let's watch this and then break it down. Here we go.
So-and-so is going to vote. I won't mention his name. And I said, no, he's going to vote because I did him a very big favor, very personal favor, as big as you can get, having to do with death and life.
Speaker Johnson's office, how can I help you?
Hi, I am wondering what the speaker is going to do about the fact that the president just announced publicly that he bribed and or threatened death upon Representative Fitzpatrick.
I can pass your concern along to the speaker, ma'am.
Yeah, the president said in regards to Mr. Fitzpatrick being unwilling to vote for the big beautiful bill, the president said, quote, he's gonna vote for it because I did him a very big favor, a very personal favor, as big as you can get, having to do with life and death. So it's unclear whether it was a bribe or a death threat, but both are illegal. And the speaker hasn't said anything about that. Is he okay with the president bribing / threatening lawmakers? Is that democracy?
I cannot speak on behalf of the speaker, ma'am.
Are you okay working for a regime that's doing that? Do you think that's democracy?
Ma'am, I enjoy my job, but I cannot speak on behalf of the speaker.
You enjoy working for a regime that's giving death threats to lawmakers who are going to vote a certain way. You think that's democracy, or you like working for fascists?
I do not have to express my personal opinions.
Well, you already did. You said you enjoy working for a fascist regime.
I did not say that. I said I enjoy my job.
Right, and your job is working for a fascist regime who's giving death threats to lawmakers who don't vote the way they want to. That's called a dictatorship.
My job is to answer calls.
For a fascist regime. Do you think the ICC is going to accept that?
Is there anything that you want me to add to your message?
Yeah, fuck him. He's a traitor, and I hope he rots in prison. I can't wait to see the day that he rots in prison for his treason. And shame on you for being part of this regime. Nuremberg 2.0 isn't going to treat you well. I mean, the entire world except your fucking cult feels that way. Nuremberg 2.0 isn't going to treat you very well. Nuremberg original, even the secretaries went to prison. So, sleep on that.
You know, I'll say they're a little bit late with the Nuremberg 2.0. I think Nuremberg 2.0 were owed for COVID. And I don't know if Trump is any more fascist than Biden, but when I hear quotes like what Trump said, like, I think the difference with Trump is that he says it out loud. Like, you know, he'll get on camera and he'll threaten somebody like on national TV. I mean, like it could be a threat. Like,
I just don't see it as a death threat. I don't see it as a death threat.
So no. I did him a favor. That's a life and death favor. Like, the way he said it, did it not sound to you like that mafia offer he can't refuse type of situation?
The reason that the mafia language sounds like that is because they can't be incriminated. That's the point. That's when you talk like a mafioso, you use language that you say he's sleeping with the fishes. He's, offer you can't refuse. There's a lingo to it. So as we know Trump very well,
that's his lingo, man.
Yes, but there's not. But this girl's wasting her time harassing a phone operator about, like, as if she's got evidence that it's an actual death threat. Like, like a death, like when it comes in the mail and it's like the chopped up letters from newspapers. I'm going to kill you. Like, that's what she had a look on her face. Like, we have this death threat that's signed by Trump that came in the mail that says, I'm going to kill you. That didn't happen.
That is true. That is true. However, my point is the way Trump talks could easily be interpreted like that. And if you also look at the overall context and Trump being mentored by Roy Cohn, who was actually tied, to
Yes.
organized crime
Sure.
and
Yeah.
his whole history there in New York. And do I think Trump is particularly worse than other politicians? No. However, he is crooked, and he probably was around, like some dangerous circles over there. So it's like, like, I think honestly that passion should be employed just for like tangible issues. And I thought it was an interesting clip just because I guess people have kind of forgotten how much Trump has lowered the bar, like in our political conversation. Like Trump doesn't even try to address people's specific criticisms of the bill. He doesn't try to address the reasons why people aren't voting against it. Like he could say, let me set up a conversation with Mike Johnson and, and Fitzpatrick, and we'll talk about it. He doesn't say any of that. He just says, hey, oh no, we're going to get it through, and he's going to vote for it because I did him a favor. It was a life and death favor, a life and death situation. That's what he said, man. So listen, we don't have evidence, and I'm not here saying, I agree that, like that call was the best way to respond to it, but it does show you how much the bar has been lowered. And I would like to see people having that same kind of energy about the genocide, that's happening in Israel. And I would have liked it if she was also talking about Nuremberg 2.0 as the party I'm sure she supports, was employing medical apartheid, like across the nation. So, but I just thought it was an interesting clip, and I appreciate the passion, but I do think we need to target it, a little bit more.
And I'm glad you shared it, Jay, because there is a discussion here about what you're saying, that you wish it was not what it is. And I'm with you on that. What we're watching is somebody with total TDS. This is what you call Trump derangement syndrome, where they're looking at a behavior that you and I have been able to analyze over and over. We know what type of person Trump is.
Not really.
Let me finish. We have a lot. There's a friendly discourse here, but I'm telling you, the passion in this woman's, and the fact that she turns the phone on herself, does this TikTok video, thinking that she's calling out this operator, saying, "Oh, you just said you like your job and you work for a fascist. Now you blah 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 blah." This is we compare this to COVIDian thinking. We compare this to Zionist thinking. Oh, you're in the street with that. That means you like Hamas because you did that and they support that, and you guys think of da. So you just got yourself. We just called you out. So this is this desire to have this is the brain capture is that you're starting from an endpoint and you're working backwards. So she got on the phone, already had concluded where she was going to get to, and found a way to get there, and her emotion took her there. If she could do what you said, which I agree with you on, Jay, what needs to be happening is we need to have an honest discussion about the things he's doing. That's not about, can you see what he kind of insinuated? Because that kind of meant this and it kind of meant that. How about the actual policies he's doing? You want to talk about the big, beautiful bill? You want to talk about that going through? Let's talk about Palantir.
Which we'll get to in the next story, which I'm excited about.
But that's what that was her reference point, was the big, beautiful bill that nobody. I want to get on and get this phone operator to admit that she's supporting a guy that forced somebody to vote for something to get it through. Are you concerned about what's in the bill more than the things that you were told by your party that the Trump derangement syndrome came from? Because that party that gave you that disease isn't going to cover the real things that you and I cover and everybody, our audience knows about. So I'm glad we play this because it shows that at a time where we all should be coming together on the Epstein list, on these things, and even with Russiagate thrown out again, we should all be like, dude, all of this is bad. All of it is bad. And it's not like, did you see what we got to get him on the 34. He already has 34 felonies. Let's get him a 35th one. It's like, that's the wrong, and you're right. It's the wrong way to go. But she's already starting from a place that you can't have a conversation with her. If we try to sit down with this girl right now, we said, hey, listen, she'd be like, what are you guys, what are you doing? Defending him? It's like, no, we're just saying a different strategy, which would be more effective than trying to tell this woman on a phone that she's, guilty by association with a fascist.
Yeah, I mean, trust me, I get what you're saying, right? And I do agree to an extent. However, the caveat, right, is I actually, shared a link, with the article and all the quotes and exactly what Trump said, like with AI. And I asked AI if AI thought that Trump's words could be interpreted, like as a threat or a bribe. And to be honest with you, it agreed, like with the lady. So if we were in a situation where, that congressman decided he was going to, I'm going to be a whistleblower and I'm going to talk about how Trump threatened me, and, behind the scenes to make me vote for this bill, which we know he's not going to do. But hypothetically speaking, if he did do that, then we would be able to point to that video to say, look, he announced it on TV. And like, do we really think that none of that ever goes on behind the scenes? My guess is probably a little bit of it does go on between all administrations. I really don't think Trump is any more evil than the Biden administration. And that's like the biggest point of agreement, like I think, we have on this. And she needs to apply the same standards to every president. And if she does that, then she'll find a lot more friends. And if she uses that passion in productive ways, then it can definitely be good, but I would just encourage her to target it, a little bit better and, fight for the issues that we're going to get somewhere on. Because if the guy who Trump threatened never comes forward and says Trump threatened me, then that video does absolutely nothing. And we know he's not going to do that. So, that would be my response. But, I wouldn't call it, TDS just because if we dismiss it as TDS, then I think we normalize Trump's political discourse. So she's outraged by how Trump's talking. And is the larger issue the establishment and what they're doing? Of course. However, I do think it will be beneficial for the world overall if we avoided electing politicians who talk and act like Donald Trump, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, and to get her on board with what we're saying, and we all agree on, she just needs a different starting point. I think we just need to make her an offer she can't refuse.